In this video, Movie Theater, we discuss the storyline, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and character. Additionally, we will cover the movie products and box office performance. Finally, we will provide and share personal reactions. So let's get started. 20th Century Fox is going to need some big help from the international box office to turn a profit as it registered a domestic opening weekend for $20 million from 40 to 37, but early signs shows that help might not come. Today estimate for the Shen Black film openings or a drop from such a day. Estimate of a $26 million start and put the Predator on the verge of seeing it opening fall below the $24 million launch from 2018 Predator. Also, while Predators had a $40 million budget, the Predator has an $88 million budget, raising the bar for profitability. The Predator will now try to follow the path set by another Fox release of a long-running horror franchise, Alien Covenant. The film has a $97 million open $36 million and crash into the heart over weeks for a domestic total of just $47 million. Fortunately, strongest overseas number push it out of the red with a final global total of $40 million. The Predator have earned just $30 million overseas for a $54 million global launch, comprised to $76 million for Alien Covenants. Real films like Venom and Or is opening proposing to take over box office in October. The runway for Predator is going to be a small and give a front-loaded feature of many horror films. Next weekend might signal a steep drop. A big problem for Alien Covenant was that it could not significantly grow its audience beyond franchises. Hardcore fans and a Predator look like it going to be suffer the same problems as Ores's breakdown show that more than 60% of the movie who saw the film were males and our age of 25. Critical receptions have not been good either, with a 34% Rotten Tomatoes scores and a C+ on sales score. Warner Bros. A New Line, The Nun, is in the second with $18.2 million, suffering the biggest drop of any films is concerning franchise with a 65%. However, the given film franchise record $53 million start that was accepted, and the film is still posting a higher to the total than the first, conquering $85 million and more, generally $200 million worldwide. In a week of this success, announced this past week that the next chapter in the series 3 will be released in 2020. Interplace is a long scaled or simple forever, which is why the spot our chart has had his strongest weekend forever. Afford made on $20 million budget, the film opened slightly above the track exceptions of the $60 million and had strongest critical reception with a B positive on score and 82% only to the meter. The film has been praised as a darker change of taste for Paul Feig, director of the Bridesmaids, and Ghostbusters remake. Completing the top 5 are Sony Studio 8 Royal Rigs and WB's Crazy Asians, both of which are estimated to make around $8 million. Crazy Asians is currently being given to 45 number 4 with the $8.8 million, putting up position to reach $150 million domestic total tomorrow. White Varric, meanwhile, is hitting studio production but is still not seeing the start one would want to see for a film with award aspirations. The $30 million crime drama has earned mixed reviews from critics with a 64% artist score, while artists have given it beyond silver score. Outside the top 5 is Pure Fix Unbroken Part Redemption, which has been to be critical with a 25% art score that earned an A from the Pure Flex's critical Christians Ors. The film opened to $2.2 million from 16 to 26 20 cents. She focuses the Predator has no trouble taking the top spot at the box office with an estimate $24 million, easy taking down last weekend winner Denon, which dropped a whopping $66 million to second place with $18.3 million. It also handily beat fellow newcomers A Simple Favor 3-star plus $16 million, White 14 plus $18.8 million and $8 million, and Unbroken Bar to Redemption's 9 plus $2.3 million. But this still represents a step back, so to speak, in the franchise as a whole. So we are breaking down the Predator debuts when compared to the 5 films in the Predator franchise, both in the unadjusted gooses and gooses while adjusting for inflation, given the fact that his franchise has been around for over 30 years. It's important that we adjust the inflations because it provides air in context. When you look at just the raw number, and the Predator is in the middle of the pack with the third highest debate of the 6 films. The Avatar is just behind 2004 Aliens vs Predator $38 million and 2010 Predators $24 million. But it's possible that when the actuals number come in, it would be a justice of an overtake Predator in the second spot. It comes a hit of original 1986 classical Predator $12 million, 2007's Alien vs Predator request for inflations. The Predators dropped to 4 plus in the franchise, where the Predator's adjusted debuted after $28 million, surpassing the Predators. Alien vs Predators adjusted debate prices from $38 million to $57 million, with Predator adjusted ST rising from $24 million to $29 million. Predator's attribute adjusted up to quite from $8.8 million to $19 million. Variance Predator Aquariums adjusting more from $10 million to $13 million. Desperate franchise is a long which none of the individual movies were blockbuster by any mean, with none of them able to gross more than $100 million. Alien West also holds the top domestic spot for franchise with $8 million, when it for inflations with a movie is suffering a huge 67% drop in second weekend. The original Predator come in second with an unadjustable domestic totals of $59 million, followed by the Predator in third with $52 million, a versus Predator record What practically disappointed is a Predator had one of the 4 as per second average in the franchise history with $5.95 million franchise higher trader in the original Predator land from 6023 the 1,706 adjusted with Predator on 4000 per second from 1950 the 9 adjusted Alien vs Predators Candy 11,000 from 395 theaters. The original and B had descent to mid-leanings. Second weekend dropped 31% and 52% respectively, but both films suffer because they just were in the theaters for too long. Predators are only played in theaters from 7 weeks. Roughly half of traditional theaters run these days, while Predator 2 was yanked out after such 4 weeks. The franchise gross Alien vs. Predator was not from 16 weeks, but 4 of those frames is presented drop of more than 60% from the previous weekend, including the 67% drops in the second weekend. Alien vs Predator posted of $55 million second weekend drops, while Predator drops a monstrous 71% in a second frame. Whether or not Predator will suffer a big second weekend drop remains to be seen. As scared of C universe, the house with a clock in its wall itself, and Reese is possible that Predator original laptops the box office is a 1 week affair if the Predator suffering a big second frame did like more of his predecessors, and House of Clock in the was put up some solid numbers. The appreciators also took in the additional $30 million overseas to bring AC worldwide to $54 million, and while it certainly is not a blockbuster figure by means, it does represent more than half of Predator. Somewhat more $88 million budget. Shelda franchise has never exactly been a box of judge overseas, and with no planned release in China slotted for Predator, 20th Century Fox may not get much help when it comes to foreign theater trust, while to his been shocked of sequel to Predators. Already nothing has been set in stone yet. It is a substantial attribute by Force 20th Century Fox, who has second thought about the future of his franchise. After all, the film was by scandal when it was revealed that one of his cast member, Seven Build, was a registered sex offender who had a scene with Olivia Mann where he hit only her repeatedly in a close friend of director Black. But once May learned about his past, she approaches the studio and lobbied for scene was not being cut, which it possible that if negative press surrounding his and the treatment of Man's studio and her cast members have played a part in Predator underperforming at box office, or is simply possible that his franchise has a fan base, and while they seem to come out rather consistently, their number as a whole might not be as big as the studio hoped for. Predator waste no time of Fox fanfare is being dropped from Sky means the audience know nothing of Roy, but seriously working into a sequel to the Predator series.
They surely know what Roy is getting into. It's Dairy Films sure to crawl. The expected characters and introductions are fall remembering a beam of light and waking up in a free fall is established quickly. Predator switches care, apparently building a mystery about what they are up against. The film needs that. Sense of wonder that and realization is important. It needs some time to build to, but it is no longer mystery. We know Arnold can take on out, and we know Danny Glover well forget it ever happened with. All the time spent dealing with this resolution. Maybe a few minutes could have been spent explaining something. That is out of the mantra. Our Predator swims looking back, the original does not. Let the audience and our own much they can see via terminal vision they can clock, and they are strong as hell. And you are alien also. It's a nice to see one of the Predators home, this one. Utilized as a game preserves assuming because people on Earth get a buddies. When special team are wiped out is done with the opportunity audience is given. An action scene with a Predator spared dog are watching things, but the rest of the world minus the variations moves on the horror looks like art. Even one of the characters' less belly state is a look like a jungle in the Amazon art. Like birds are here chirping and insect are here calling, so much for the festival. Then we are told of a war between Predator faction. It would amount to a cameo by Lordness. This plays a critical role in the final, yet there is no reason for the war in the first place. Apparently the new Predators are treeing. Roll with Arnold is better than anything else, and different provide name, road, and direct. Some impressive action sequences easily highlight as if the expressions were any different. They give a serious, different feel, including a tense, well-crafted sword fight that brings out a bite of connectors in the playator. Showing again, while they may be vicious, they are not mindless, they do exist for a purpose, even if the various X equals and such sort of laws that window. Fox levers are sparking stunning wired air and good fire. Predator, at least from the start, digitally using deep in vision Genesis, the clarity afforded by the photography is surely immense after a broad fall heard of the ground. The first close-up of the films providing a memorial level of texture both in terms of facial and clothing detail. The daytime short in the beginning have the sun grazing through the trees too. Brightening illuminates some of the cheek jungle. How much he is also resolved in these condition is remarkable. Trees are invariably visible deep into the frame. The engaged black with levels adding the depth of field. There are few instances of the shimming of flicker v resolution. Simply is not enough, like 24:26 when the camera pans upward. Look toward the sky. The tall grass liver with a little bite of seam shimmer in the motion that is enough to notice. It's not just these single short either. The fully resolved facial texture from pores to dirt is and differences as blue can be. There is a smattering of noise. The first instance at 8:25, the digital nature showing through in course. Somewhat helpless at maintaining the same cleanliness or top with a generally cool color palette adding to repair fresh stone while the greens come alive. Every plant is wiped in term of color. Obviously meant to be a sand, but design. Past this opening moment things take a turn of reverse. Smoke and F comes through slightly noisy. All to the real. Deep comes in term of the black level. During the sequences where Ness Fisher Burns saves a cue at 52 they begin to lighten up. It remains natural. To distance zip setting and causing a dip in the overall contrast. Once inside, the makeshift Predatorship moan levels are all but lost. They yell intensity and give him major softer multi-quality. Gency suffer his same result. They say that it is typically remains. Some strongly focus lightning keeping it prominent. Things pick back up for final. Are to the Predator's Camp Force showdown rendered well. The blacks returning to an adequate state. The same some impressive fire creating some intense lightning is probably imperative to know. That shadow remains insect throughout. Decks are lightened or as wonderful as it. From the start is surely close to high depth of perfection. Thankfully this audio produces a consistent level of quality of all the way through. The jungle of this nameless plant carries a pleasant effort. From those above motion birds into insect grips, save for the heavier section scene, they are a constant presence creating a wonderful and seemingly authentic atmosphere of course, no one is listening to this track for its ability to process birds. Dean comes any heavy machine gun fired from the start at 3:30. The low end produces a satisfying grumble naturally balanced with the other element like those shown to be that this separating from the lead AEM in the surrounds. The first major action scene that a sad trap does everything shop does toward their victim and hit the ground with a solid impact from the sub. Lest we forget those Stias channels creating natural plan during the creature's assault at 27 minutes from gunfire zipping side to side to the monster things moving in forward kill pans are natural and the fronts are split wide indoor just inside fist burn ship. Actually there is an echo to the dialogue separating to the around zone field cleanly. Generally it's all placed in the center where it should be. The balance between the various element about as perfect as they come. Gunfire never takes over the score. The tight best never overwhelm the heist and the aggressiveness of all never drawn out duck. The final with powerful predators. Rozak engines kicking in and vicious close quarters combat is simply awesome. It ends with a clean as purest rendition of Long Jelly Sally. You can imagine a body. And get it's not only a great homage to the frustrated the film but a fine way to show our frailty of this mix. The response to the name rolled NCH. Directed was pretty tidbit around these parts with our own James Smash and Jim Jor giving a resounding having had a chance to watch the recent Blu-ray release myself. I can see where the Andasium gap come from with this one. While in no it rides on having a couple of honest to God moment. Predators never really figures out how to make the most solid titular villain as a story. Engine and the limited scope leaves you having a hard time remembering the Chusa. The movie is a P-Studio sequel to the classic. This time dropping a killer on an alien plant used as a game reserve for the Predator. The killer soldier and Orsinas must learn to work together or overcome the trio of predators sucking them through the hostile alien environment. Adrian Brody leads the cast as a dead Mark who simply want a plant and does not give a damn about his fellow haunted. It's easy to share his sentiment. The Secret by Alex Lightwork and Michael Finch is simply populated with the tops that Deckley but job is European the Danny Joe and it's hard to build up interest in their blight. It even sounds like I'm completely betting on the movie any package. I am not. It's just so T-wrote and is fire to seeing everyone involved porting the effort of making Reputators some care bases afford that was going to revolarize the franchise. I suspect Angel seriously gave some thought to where he wanted to go with the franchise, which makes it kind of the disappointing that Baskey and could come up with theatrically as a real Predator, and when you say that out loud it kind of make the whole thing free title. You can detect element of old craft out of script left turned body rapid production process any demand of making a lean process and the demands of making a lean action movie as a game preserve the alien plan fields of bites. Additionally, there is an introduction of some kind of caste struggle between the predators on the cover and the one died. That Annie fought back in the 80s passingly explained by her failed-eyed Slender during The Glory and Killer. The main cast is frequently portrayed as panicky and on a run, making the escape from Jay Hunter feel more like the matters of luck. That the scope of the movies never really matches the promise is a large problems of the Predator. For all of my complaints about the actual film, the palette and visual directions of the movie is rich and beautifully reproduced hair acting, almost as a mini for the ASIN and locations where the film was shot. The colorish and the levels are just right. I think there was one low-light scene that betrayed our views of the exam, but it was so fleeting that worrying about it too much is just hiding. The image is incredibly detailed, offering glimpses of every little gross element of the new Predator's makeup effect. It sounds too good with a mix that allows you to hear some interesting embellished jungle noise as the leads are being chased for their lives. It's actually a fully packed Sisk, and your M will really work depending on how into the movie you are. There are actually a few fairly extensive talk looking at the production process for the movie. chatting with everyone from Angel N to Effect Guru Greg Net. It's actually really in reading brushing new mode and she'll talk about the movie. I was thinking to myself the second film started with the address birding up. Might free fall as he plummeted into the jungle hunting around predators from here. The action did not let up with his being quickly introduced to our main character. All of them are killer or manhunters in some record. These are Battle Hunter Ernest Amley King and no one else. Well, he may be the sexy label on a sniper and seemingly the most conscious of the group best. We also get a drug cartel enforcer Johnny a Russian's Oleg hitman and a dead lawman. We also get a nerdy doctor who seemed to be the old man out but maybe hiding something. Our RPAs is exactly the sort of entrance I was hoping for after a summer full of ammo vampire or KJ action heroes. Here we get some rock-solid Dawn and dirty detection. Reminiscence of the best of the ages. Obviously produces. A robot arises closely on the original details with a healthy dose of aliens. Mixing as this follows a lot of the some same bits is still great original film. Did the super shitty AVP series is rightfully ignored with picking up on the same mythology we saw in the first two Predator films with humans being hunted for sport. This has a novel approach of having the human drop smack trap in the middle of a game preserved located on the Predator's home world, and we get a most notion that this process has been worries to be the hunted warrior, with this being a rite of passage of the Predator learned as much when we meet Luna's characters who have been surviving on his own for 10 years. One guessed this idea. That had not been saving his corner of California. This role might have been intended for him with his character. Of course, after a few years of grab A movies, you cannot blame and drag Nam for eschewing the Predator's politics in favor of action, and on that lab this film's delivers instead. While it has a show built, the Predator section does not really kick it until the second power. The first hour spent developing the likable character with each members getting their moment in the sun, so to speak. I particularly like the Shield words and go as Imad inmate who got a hilarious man on necklace when I get home speech letting him not going to run here. Goiz is not awesome character actor, and I would love to see him get more action role. You can catch him stealing the Suns on excellent series, following in the footsteps of the Node and joining Glover as a Predator's leading man. We get a surprisingly effective Abrauder who is so jacked a body roll. You might have a have believing this is the same guy who used to be a quickly Y character actor in low-key drama and a richly deserved Oscar for the Painist. I got to say I held my daughter when Bloody was on him right off the bat, and it toward the end, where he emulate Ain and the Shortless Man with a Predator. I was on the edge of my seat, actually, like Daddy cast and every man in the role more along the lines of the Danny Glover in the underrated Predator 2, as irony as a top factor will follow, and costing another musical man probably would have been a mistake unless another icon like Salon or was available. Sporting body with Gary always excellent Elisa Brea, who brings equal bars, ears, sex appeal and kick-ass to her role, which has more than a little in the common video classic characters formed aliens as he fall to offer grace while he was a disaster in the Spider-Man thing is perfectly cast there. Arto less sad about his character the better, as I don't want to spoil the twist I guess. He is true nature right from the get-to-go. Another plus is the awesome score by Johan, which is expertly emulate the classic Alan score of the original film. I was convinced he composed the soundtrack. The film is also extremely well cut, with the quick-cutting commonplace in the van action flick that team more or less absent. We also get refreshingly low-key use of CJ with practical effects seemingly being used for most of the Predator CJ tracking hounds for a different story. Overall, I had a total blast. Predators, and added in a few pacing issues throughout the middle, could have maybe lost 5 to 10 minutes. And a few glitches, of course, by Brody winds up being much more heroic than he initially comes off. This is perfectly pieces of summer entertainment. Hopefully people will get out and disport it as this type of the hardcore action film that need to make a comeback in Aliens. I would be ranked this below the first two Alien and the first Predators, but ahead of 2 and the other 2 Aliens films. AP does not even register as a lion's rush of a film and a kick-ass at the movies human consider top of the food chain, and while the idea might work on the art, we barely scare at the Galaxy Gladiator competition. The Predators franchise, which began very classic film in 1987, is all about the jaw-dropping hunter from space to travel to different worlds for legal competition and have been known to kidnap spaces for hunts back on your home planet. 2 initial Predators films is 1987 and 1990s created a baseline for the Predator saga, since from the Alias moves are also a cinematic SC for humanity. It made perfect sense in 2000 to create a shared universe with 2 Alien vs. Predators flick in the following decade. The writers such as Ebert, Sean Black, and Jan I'll Put Your Spines on their franchise will be killer of killers. No streamingly and Builders Badlands arrivingly theater later this week. It's better than time then over to bring the original sci-fi classic. If you want to watch I Bet movie in order to cover below, you will be finding Full Charm Predators movie. It all started with the 1987 Predators, directed by the Thy Heart's Done MC and starring Heidi Arnold along with the Carol Wears Jaw Peter films many years later. Predator is an awesome action classic where a near unstoppable military rescue team gas is handed to them by a terrifying invisible force in the jungles for South America. When the attacker is revealed to be an alien hunter out on its own version of a sinister safari, Dutch must figures out how to ambush and defeat a monster light year ahead of him in tech and tactics. A few years later, Predators return to the multiplexes for more anti-mayhem, but this time with a complete challenges of class and setting taking place among us near future. Heat Wave, Crime Wave, 1997's Angels predated to follow. Played by the Dining Bill. Now cut your Blu-ray and your chance to win it is here. Elided was time to cast an In for Flame, a related film featuring one of the best pest days in modern cinema, wisely ignoring the AB franchise that it has apparently become a crime to enjoy, even if they are still fun films, far in failure to the individual franchise that spawned them. This movie kicks off with some people falling through the air and landing in the certain surroundings. They are initially under no to them on a planet that is a use a game BRA hunting ground, and they are the game directed by Name Road and a director who consistently provides entertaining fear and selling the likes of Edwin Brody. Brody has spent some serious time in our gym, and it shows. His hero anti-hero is believable and physically of the task of trying to stay alive in the dangerous environment. I like plays in this, and he provides a nice counterbalance to Broad his character while also not stretching believability with our survival skill. A lot of people dislike to offer grace here. Let's just say that I don't, and I really do. I think he's a great actor and always watchable, or as good as ever, and we have a fantastic John from Old Torres as Nicole. But as much as we find characters or to root for and see trying to survive, this movie is all about the Predators. Allo, the title has a nice double meaning to it, and audiences won't be disappointed. With some of the creatures having been landed a minor line laner upgrade, you get to see Ching Nud still retains all the best qualities of the big bad. Then there is also an appearance from the classic creator which will most definitely please fans. That's the gift from Alex and Michael FES to bed with. Some expositions worked in here, and an unfolding mystery that let these usually say one step ahead of a protagonist but never add a cast of any entertainment value. And many of the action stages are well executed, but the movies will seem to be lacking some ch. Maybe I was slightly disappointed due to the fact that one big money shot from the trailer was just that a short that never actually appeared in the movie and so made me feel jaded. So be warned in advance. Or maybe it was because the movie has one or two silly plot holes that brought me out of the experience. Albeit only just there is something that stopped this film from being great for me, and I am just not sure what it was. Angel does a good enough job for directing unskilled daddy producers Robert. While I thought Predator 2 was fine, some fans of the original were less than impressed. I really did not like Aliens vs. Predators and never bothered with a sequel, which I hear was alighted with its own share of problems given the decline of the Aliens franchise. I wasn't expect much from a new Predator. However, when I hear of a Robert involvement in the project, I became a little more optimistic. Can be a bite of a mixed bag filmmaker, but a man no action. Some people actually mistake him for the director. But he was a producer still. I have to imagine he had some influences in Danny Trejo's inclusions in the cast. Well, when I first gave this movie a shot, I was doubly impressed. It not only captured the spirit of the original, but also carved out a good little spirit of her. The characters nicely, I have to give add credit in particular for casting himself as a plausible action star. Working up for the role and demonstrating how you do a gradually voice was without disowning. I liked all the other characters, but I will give special mention to Lawrence Fishburne for a small but memorable role. There's a good action that's all well spaced, plenty of callback to the original, and so many dragging new grown export. Any better scan should give this one was it's a good stuff. The events of Predator as 2010 don't take place or not. The film does not follow the blood of Predator 1987's and Predator 2 1990, and he has a new story with only one mention of the first Predator film. That acts more like a tribute or an Easter egg than a connection. He barely managed to get his open and he crashes in the middle of a jungle. After gaining the concussed consciousness, he looks around and he has no idea where he is. The very next moment, another man, Danny, crashes in front of him and pulls his gun at roll. The moment he gets up, Roy tells him to stop and just another guy crushes. This one is not lucky enough and immediately as Roy and try to figure out where they are fired upon a machine gun. Both somehow manage to take over and Roy around and puts his gun on the guy's forehead who was firing at him. His name is Old N. Persons reveals itself from among the bushes as a Bill. She tells them that she saw more franchises and he decide to head in the direction, and he find out that's going on as they hit any direction. Their voice is nice. Two more guys fighting each other. When he see Roy, Isabel, and others, they stop fighting. There is also One Night Home Jan hanging upside down from a tree nearby. They cut him down and he continued their journey. After some time notices Hanso at a distance and tells the team they find him sitting. Alfred seemed to be totem of some kind. It also he has different kinds of the skull at his base that according to Mombasa or trophies of a var. They decided to look for high ground. Ad comes across a plant with sample of which he collect on a scalpel he has on him. As they reach higher ground, they realizes that his son has not moved since they landed. Later on they come across ampute cages and almost ended up getting killed by traps that they later find out they had been set by U.S. soldier whose small body find nearby were not mean for them but something much bigger than them. Meanwhile, Mombasa notices something moving among the trees, but ignore it. They reach a cliff from where the earth is visible and realizes they are on a different planet altogether. As they make their way in another direction, they are attacked by a pack of four-legged. They somehow manage to kill some of the beast and allow to make it out alive. Deduces that are being hunted on planet that is again preserved. Just then, Mesa realizes that is missing. They find him dead and his body is used to. They figure out what they are dealing with. They follow the tracks of the beast. They attack them and arrive to the makeshift camp where they find a predator that has been an attacker captive. It is said that they are attacked by a group of these predator and is killed. The other managed to escape as revealed that he catches there. Raw one killed a group of Allied soldier in 1987. Reinforces 1987's references. The own survivors do and use Mellow to hide from the creature's INF vision. It also had a cloaking devices that made it invisible. The creatures hunted and killed the one member at a time. Or talks about a plan to kill the predator and the team to the effect as a way they are able to the creature but are not revealing themselves. Roe and does Edwin Judy become the bed and the Lord came out but to get out of Fian it's not a predators that revealed itself but Ronald Noland. Also of the U.S. Army who has been on the plan for 10 seasons. The fact that he talked to an imaginary friend proves that he has lost his mind. They second them to his hideout and tells him about how the predators aren't injuries and are able to learn and adapt quickly. They bring in a fish made humus and beast from of the planet. Hunt them and kill them. All of it for sport. Also too, different kinds of predators exist, bigger ones and the smaller ones, and they have a blood feud. Rose make up his mind to free out the captive predator they saw at the camp so that it can reveal the way to that Ronald says there is at some distance from the camp as they rest as a hideout smell smoke. A swarm of fire that in Molland has it under it due to the room with the intention of this of guarding them to death as Roa tries to blow a way out. The loss is noticed by Opater that hares hide out. It kills no land and freezes. Group waiting for the people to ascribe to that it can harm them. It managed to stab but he kills it using a couple after more Emons had on him sacrificing himself in the process. The another namely Roy, Isabel, Edwin and Sands make it out to hide out alive but Wright and protesters interrupt them and kill Son. Edwin gets his leg injured in a trap where tells Isabel to love him as he will only slow them down but Isabel is adamant so as leave while Isabel stays back with. The Advent arrives at camp and frees the captive predator who direct him toward his ship. Meanwhile, Isabel and Edwin are captured by the remaining predator, who brings them to a party camp and puts them in it. Adia notices the captive predator who is now afraid along with the RO as the captive one approaches it for battle. Ro make it way toward the ship. The captive predator is killed by the remaining one uses its rest devices to blow the ship that was taking off, apparently killing Roy inside the pit. Aiden intending to stay on the plant and now return toward where he is a serial killer paralyzes Abel using the nutrition he had acquired earlier from a planet on his scalpel as he's about to kill Isabel or shows up and kills Adwin by plunging the scalpel into his neck, paralyzing him into he then uses Aiden's body as back to the remaining predator, breaking Aiden's body with the ganders. The predator's fast fault and injured in the blast as we struggle to fight the predator with an X as a belly who is slowly gaining control for her body managed to reach out to her rifle and shoot a predator, warning it rarely had it with the axe, killing it as they rest. As they try to regain their bread they see more prey in the sky, realizing that more prey means more predator. They head back into the jungle to find a way out. The planet predator is not as interesting as the previous two movies as we do not get to see the barbarity of the predator, their gruesome attitude as well as their competitive nature that makes them so overwhelmingly terrifying are not explored at all. Practically speaking, we get our first glimpse of the predator, not counting the clogged one that kills Mombasa after half the film is over. And even done, the film does not show much of them, almost to the point where it seems that the creator of the films were pulling their punches, not knowing what else to do. It's Adrian Brody who single-handedly takes a film forward, which is true for any other film of his as well altogether. Predator is not even close to the previous Predators films, and the only reason to watch it is to keep up with the franchise. From the franchise's previous Art-born Bond films, 2010's Predator was set on a completely different world after addicting various spaces on a game present territory. It didn't stop one survivor from doing the impossible. We had given a fair amount of the coverage of the Robert producers Namor Angel and most everything we have seen and hear about the sequel to the original 1987 movies has been good, and readers seem to be agree. Story question is, does the Sienna reproduce live up to the expectations? Pretty much my Predators West not whatsoever getting started the first scene we get of an unconscious Adrian Brody failing out of the sky. We are right there with him as he wakes up Groy, and within the second figures out his predicament and tries to desperately to figure out where the re-god is left for. The picture looking like a little understart a movie. A number of other people have been dropped the same way, and there is not a different friendly sort. They start flirting at it, fighting with each other until they realizes there maybe they would better figure out just what to make is going on in the group of we have got mercenaries or handed drug convex ball ops. It does not take long for them to realizes that they are no longer on Earth but on Game Reserve Planet, and they are the game. Of course, the point of the movie is to watch them get back picked up of any one by one, only recussion in what order of them might survive this time instead of in Predator. We have a number of them. This gave us the opportunity to watch the human take John 10 1 or 2 and get a couple of short instead of it happening only at the end. It was refreshing to watch an action movie these days that had no aspirations to be 3D, now to use significant amount of CGI. We get a lot of cool sequences in the film, including one contained that can only be referred to as Dogs from Hell, and another where someone goes up and gets later with nothing but a sword go to say. Unlike the original film, this one was pretty much a humor part of the appear fun of the original, very quickly character and occasional unexpected funny line. Of course, some of the jokes in the film wear glasses, but where Jong and Shik and fit the characters here is a pretty much all as a seriousness. The story is very close to the original film, only takes place on any world and with the multiple Predator. Personally, I did not mind its basic story, but for what it is, it worked. There are multiple nods to the original. In particular, as a big fan of Predator, I appreciated the music played during the closing credit, but even within such a simple framework and for the sort of film it was, there was problems, in particular with the Doctor, while he did not find and did not guess his purpose there. When it was finally revealed, it seemed completely out of it. And while I enjoyed seeing Lordness Fisher Byrne in the film, who gave a great performances, by the way, he was kind of a non-sure. And while how he came in was cool, what his character ends up doing is pretty stupid. I also had a problem with the ending, with something obvious missed by the broadest character and a fight scene that should have been epic, but was shot in such a way that it could hardly make out what was happening. Overall, despite this issue, I enjoyed the Predators a lot, and as coming from someone who a big fan of the original does not even remember for the first sequel, despised Aliens vs. Predators Requiem. Take a look at our review here. The latest addition to the Predators franchise is now available to watch. Mark the occasion. We decided to take a blog back at a Predator movie that we feel deserves more love. I know we are not talking about Predator today. We already are talked about why that is cool. The movie we are hyping up with a new episode of Black Ship video series today is the 2010 film Predator. Watch it here to find out why he with Imperators deserved more fans. Take out the video. Brought together on a mysterious planet, a mercenary and a group of the cold-blooded killer how become a prey. A new breed of aliens pre-some of jungle. The group must work together to survive or become the latest trophies of the film Fearsome Integrity Hunter. This episode of The Black Sheep was written and narrated by Andrea Hatfield, edited by Brandon, produced by Lancevik. After doing near permanent damage to their uniced sci-fi thriller franchise, with a couple of horrid films sparing the bloodthirsty cosmic hunter and even More popular cure after Alien franchise 20th Century Fox finally after many years I have seen FY Predator the Solo SP once again the original crawl placing. Predator starring in Old K in the summer of 1987 its only D-sequel Predator 2. With Danny Glover come out in 1990. Since then they have been Who Alien versus Predator film that are best foreign making his new Predator films even more appealing to fanboys is a fact that Fox is interested creative development too. Robert and his Troublemaker studio. And Real Sam would have to be set up from the rock bottom of the AB era. He is a filmmaker who in my opinion has yet to earn his reputation as a virtual actor or in this case a quality name brand. All too often his file devolved into a setting of the underdeveloped characters after an undershooting and or getting shot made up purely at soul, net and line and so aesthetic. In this case is the most dangerous of the most dangerous. A bunch of heavily armed roughneck assassin train killer and out psychopath awaken while being airport into a train jungle environment. Only to realize is that you must from uneasy islands if they are to survive as they hunted. Clearly these predators love are challenged, which is why they make a point of hunting only the biggest and the baddest of mankind. In Jess Adventure is the original film. It wasn't open seasons on future U.S. Governor Danny Glover is applied to and now address Brody. Wait a minute. Looking this over, I'm seeing to define in term of action hero jobs in this series. Brody is a great actor in the casting agent. As you can say we are currently in this midst of a serious action hero shortage when movie producers and convinced themselves that guys like Jake and Edwin Broy and Errol FL it took them 20 years old to make his part, and after such a long time I do have to admit that his was not bad. It has expanded on a Law and Universe's Alto. For the most part it is still the same story by the Jungle Alto show with a twist, or should I say multiple twists. Before you get all exciting, there is not anything here that is going to blow your mind, but they are effective within the story. So, a bunch of random people find themselves on a place that does not look familiar with them. While suspicious of the other, they quickly realizes they have to work together to get ahead. I like this. One could argue whether people would be so trusting this fast. I sure would not. I guess when it comes to survival, you will have to pick your battle. It would have been so annoying to see these people fight amongst themselves while the real threats still have to be revealed. Caution is key, and I'm glad they all tortoises. This part does a good job of keeping things tense, but does commit a fatal sin for a film with enough title. Predator. There simply are not enough Predator, or at least not the kind the audiences want to see in the first two films. There was just one films to film, and were a pain to deal with. Here films they are less impressive. Their sense offers many moments there the Predators cured many have done something but it. Not one of the damn is a drone. It could have been used without the group of killers of finding out. Then Winter shows it could one should have forced the group to change strategy. Many times these killers can escape from every situation they are put in. And while every situation are being hunted, they don't actually act like they are constantly being pushed to madness. I think this really was a missed opportunity. I myself was not particularly bothered by Adrian Brody, but I can understand some people might have some issues accepting him as a soldier who has been sent a lot of combat. He's trying too hard to come off as TH given his illness or Predator to 8, and he declined the series overtaken. The B and sequel Predators release in 2010 is better than it should be. It does not compete with the Johan and what is gone, but get back to the basic of what made the film work among their things, making you believe a group of hard military allied were afraid was Predator greatest achievement, and while Predators have nobody and led by the Adrian never reaches the frightful moment A sim is still holdable jungle is fearful aquarium security and is sensory forbidding isolation. The surprisingly Predator is Adrian Brody, who in 2002 won an Oscar for The Painters, but he could not be forged from the dead that role. He is the default leader of a group of mercenary type who already dropped into a jungle terrain train and is graph of cry from the spellism. Perhaps it is the wrong word. The other players like Roy, some better, some worse. There's as allies Breaker, a Middle Eastern soldier, Nikolai, a Russian Militai Mombasa and American freedom fighter, Hanso, and the letter of murder who was said to be executed in 2 days. Sands and Edwin are your most best ruler. The former be of his crimes while the later appear to be a simple doctor terrified of his new environment where the other are not predators have some surprises and sword. Regarding his character which won't be spoiled, the film is quick to drop hints that this is not plant art but it takes a while for the character to get here. The scene where they discover this is a group huge plants and moons on a horizon is not as effective. However, as a prayer scene where Isabel shows Roy compass that never settle on a direction between the sun, I would say we have a real problem as informing the sun does not change position throughout the day is these details along with the typical group in fighting and characterizations that make Predator a film that tries harder. It sets up in the atmosphere and tone that feels ominous and even if it is more of a curry to get where it's going than the 1987 opener. This is a considerable timer for the appearance of the first Predator. There are 3 we learn. It adds a sense of the 4 voting missing from Predator 2 and 2018 Predators which was all over the place. The film has it quickly element and its great one. Its quickly side revealed the Predator releasing alien hound on the group. Predator may be the first films in history to open with a Deus ex machina. Yes, enjoy plot and all the human character drop into the movie from the human. The last things they remember is a blinding flash of light. Now they are in free fall tumbling toward the surface. The first to land with a mighty trump is Aro that just a dropping all around him. These peoples are savage professional killer from all over. A mercenary, a Japanese murderer, an Israeli, a mass murder, an African word. And so on. How did they get in this big jumble and why? They discovered they are on another world, a perfectly terraformed world. It would seem the gravity allowed them to walk normally and he can breathe the air and drink the water. Ro notices something odd. Thus never moves. They arrives in a clear space and he realizes there are 3 or 4 moon in the sky which are either very close or very huge since their circumference are many times that of our moon. Nuoho June here. As every science fiction fan knows, if a planet always present the same face to its sun and is hearing by the bodies apparently larger than it is, it will quickly beam Leopider and Ubi face tidal forces. But never mind. After the visitors are attacked by the human ghost Pediast, figures it out there are in the game preserved. He figures out a lot of things in the movie which might have been a more fun he did not who runs his game preserves and why if you recall the first predators and killers found themselves in the Amazon fighting an unseen predated alien has a trace of aliens importing human to its solar system for a rematch. It's a wise use of the resources to transport several mammals and told light years through space as you can watch them getting their asses Predator. No time to think about them. Here comes some really vicious watch-looking creature. They about half a ton pieces move as fast as lion and have so many arms and spikes sticking out of them that fornicating must have to be a something. Can you spot the design flaw? It's horn or fangs. Whatever they are, I send you for in front of its mouth. Yes. After they kill their prey, how do they eat them? It is as inconvenient as a mucil on a Pit ball. I thought maybe they lie on their back and shovel the food in their feet. But no, how is that going to work with all the spikes on their back? Never mind. The movies are mostly about our nasty hero being attacked by the terrifying antagonist. The residents view everything in Poveri shot to what looks like a video monitor with a high white color adjustment, and they appear in a way I was not going to. There are always a few characters who get killed in the attack movie like this. What confuses me is why they don't all get killed. Think about that ranging again. If that thing hit you at 20 and got you down on the ground and you could do was stab it with your knife, and would you expect to have the letter in the film? There is of course one woman in the film as well. She and Roy slowly bound and eventually at the end, but no, I can't tell you if they kissed, there would be a spoilering, you know for sure. The Alien watches don't spend a lot of time. Fingers opened low previously franchise installment theater at the box office this week. The 1987 original is considered a classic office genre, but despite its popularity, it was never able to spawn a highly regretted series. The first Alien recipe data is actually the property highest grossing film and adjusted for the inflation $18.20 million. 1990 Predator 2 earned only $3.6 million domestically and Predators made $52 million. Both of those figures are below the Hall of Dats, which made $59 million in its run. Black Wu had a role in that first Predator movie, hoping to bring the brand back stronger than ever by making a big scale installment that would be an event movie. Fox was certainly hoping that he was successful in the goal, seeing that they were looking to make a couple of sequel to the Predator, but now that box office result and may have to considerable their plan. According to Box Office Mojo, the Predators grossed $24 million in AC first 3 years. That's actually slightly less than a Predator, which earned $24 million when it debuted. Seeing that 8 years of ticket price spike separate the two movies, these results are not exactly encouraging. It's important to note this is not a dead gal or repator, as it's a performed solidly overseas. The global total currently stand at a $54 million and a film cost just $88 million. To make a small price tag compared to other would be blockbuster could very well end up being a profitable over for folks, especially since it won't face much in the way of the competition of the next few weeks. Sony's Phenom is a Project October record when it premieres, but still has a nice caution to bad as a turtle and become a minor success. Of course, the Fuse mixed critical reception, such as it won't have very strong legs. So it will be interesting to see what happen right now. Fox should not bank too heavily on Reputators having a future, but you will tell. This week's other new releases are Simple Favor and White Roy came in third and fourth respectively. The former earned $60 million while the later came in with $8.8 million. Media came into a much fanfare or awards pass, but it was still able to do relatively well with their target demographic, taking advantage of a movie release success. Maybe the first films in history to open with the Duke's Ex Machina. The entire plot and all the human characters drop into the movie from the human. The last thing they remember is blinding flash of light. Now they are in free fall, tumbling toward the surface. So, screaming, grabbing for only processes that he did not know they had. The first to land with a mighty jump or voice. The others start dropping all around him. These peoples are savage professional killer from all our snare panties and Israeli marks woman amass motors and African world and so on. How did they get in this big jumble and why they discovered our own world, a perfectly terraformed world? It would seem the gravity allowed him to walk normally and he can beat the air and drink the water. Or notices something odd. The sun never moves. They arise in a clear space and realizes there are 3 or 4 moon in the sky which are either very close or very huge, since their circumference are many dams and of our moon. Now hold on. As every science fiction fan know, if a planet always presents the same face to its sun, and is ring-led by bodies apparently larger than it is, it will quickly become molten lava pool hydra and should be turtle forces. But never mind. After the visitors are attacked by the homicbeards of the prayer, Rose figures out they are in a game reserve. He figures out a lot of things in the movie which might have been more fun if he had not. Who runs the game prisoner and why? If you recall, the first Predator 1987's Anat and other killers found themselves in the Amazon fighting an unseen predatory alien hazard race of aliens, imported human to its solar system for release. It is wise use of the resources to transport several mammals until light year through spec can wash them getting their use as Predator. Not only thing about him, here comes some really vicious wardrobe-looking creature. They W about half a tone pieces, move fast as low and have no many arms and spikes sticking out of them. That first thing must have to be awesome. Think, can you spy the sand FLS of fangs, whatever they are, XES, after they kill their prey? How do they eat them? It's as inconvenient as a mucil on a pet ball. I thought maybe they lie on your back and they shovel the food in with their feet. But no, how? Daddy going to work with all the pikes on their back? Never mind. The movie is mostly about our nasty hero being attacked by the terrifying antagonist in incomprehensible moods of the lightning for special effect. It lacks the quiet suspense of the first Predator. And please don't even mention the Alien vs. Predator pictures, which, like the subtlety of Motor vs. Godzilla, the resident aliens view everything as post shot through what look like a video monitor with a highway color adjustment, and appear in real way. I will not go and joke. There are always a few characters who get killed in attack movies like this. What confuses me is why did all that guilt? Think about that. If that thing it is you at 20 and you get your dawn on the ground and assume good news was AN, would you expect to see how glad in the film? There is of course one woman in the film, as I will shy away slowly bond and eventually at the end, but no, I can't tell you every case. There would be a spoiler. What do you know for sure? The alien virtual don't spend a lot of time fascinating, given this illness of J and a decal is better than it should be. It does not compete with the Johan MC. What can but get back to the basic of what made that film work, among other things, making you believe a group of the hard military allied were afraid was a predator's greatest achievement. And Wild Predator by the Surprising Predators is Andreen, who is 2002 won an Oscar 40 by, could not be further from that role. He is the leader of a group of the mercenary tribe who are dropped into a jungle train, and his craft are of war cry from the world's law. Perhaps him is a wrong word. He character Roy is some kind of black ops mercenary who has long ago accepted he likes his work. He keeps it quiet. No voice is the type of person who tried this not considered other is not, and here being hunted by reply alien race is no exception. The other players are like some battles, some wars. There is a real allies, a middle soldier. The film is quick to drop hints that this is no planned art, but it takes a while for the character to get her. The scene where they discovered this is a group huge plants and moon on the horizon is not as effective, however, as a prayer scene. What is Billy shows versus a compass that never settles on our direction? Between that and sun, I would say we have a real problem where, amusingly, odds informing the sun does not change position throughout the day as these predators, along with a typical group in fighting, and the characterization that maybe Predator's a film that tries harder. It has of an atmosphere and shown that Fireflies, and even if it is 1987's opener, it still Take considerable time for the appearance of the first Predator Mad 3, we learn it as a sense of forbidding missing from Predator 2 and 2018 The Predators, which was all over the place. The film has a squeaky element and is great one-sitter, releasing alien horns on the group, seeing how they react. The CGA creations are fine, nowhere near as bad as criticized by the late Progress Abort. However, the inclusions needs allowed to be dazzled. The Predators are such an advanced place. It would need to be supplied to group up and steady their habit, as is told by the survivor. The group stumbles upon many gate and small roll. Whenever a human kills one of them, that's when things really get exciting. The great element are in the way. It makes most of these character appeal to us. We have empathy of our jam, and know gently damns their evil in the real world. Even if a lot of them have it coming and realize the meaning. The film title Predator is not the alien for which he named these men and women predators in the world. They are chosen because of the skill set which give the aliens good. So sport bus say an ancient SMSW and Slus in the Rain. Waiting for Opiators is a pleasing homage to the first film, and ends appropriately. Last time around Billy Be the Better and end, featuring Boob Trap Mud and a Dove as Nail Rose service as fitting funnel even. At Bodies is not the same as good old All in All. Predators is a solid movie. It's much better than it should be, and despite it weak links exploding surrounding gracious character has an ending that feels attentive. The dark tone, the posse-like jumble, and the sense of doom surrounding each of this character makes the attempt at survival what's much more interesting, where it did not for the release of Pre in 2022. I could slowly say this was the best sequel to the original. Not perfect, but solid. Predators offered enough kids care and fan service to make it serviceable. 20th Century Foxes. The Predators had no trouble taking the top spot at the box office with an estimated $24 million, easily taking down last weekend's winner, than which drop day. Whooping for the first time in 7 years, a movie is making its way to Pre, sending both Pre and animated Predator Killer of Killers directed to Kilo. Disney is hoping that director Dan can deliver a theatrical hit with a live action Predator Badlands. The question is, will enough people turn up to return this pricey sci-fi flick into a box office success? As of this writing, Brand Lands is expected to pull in between $70 and $25 million domestically when it debuted next weekend. Per Box Office Theory, that is admittedly on a low side. For a movie for this size, Disney was probably aiming for something closer to last year's Alien, which opened to $42 million and route to an unusual $350 million worldwide total against an $80 million budget. If current projections hold, latest will fall somewhere between the 2010 Predator's $24 million openly worldwide and in 2018 the Predator's $24 million opening $160 million worldwide. Then again, his franchises has always had a lower ceiling than Alien. For example, the highest grossing entry, somewhat ironically, is 4's Alien vs. Predators, at $177 million worldwide. The standalone Predator film have always closer to the $100 million mark globally, no matter what your budget. The original 1987 Speeding Arnold was a big hit that crossed $98 million to Gal, but that was on the $18 million budget. In this case, Disney needs a much bigger result, while the budget was yet to be reconfirmed. Given the scale previewed in the dollar, it's unlikely to come in at less than the $80 million opened on Rome Romulus. For comparison's sake, spent $65 million, making Pre, which was made separate acclaim but jumped directly to Clee in 2022. Predator's Badlands is set in the future on a distant planet and centers on a young Predator who has been cast out from his clan with an unlikely LA, India. They embark on a dangerous journey in search of the ultimate adversary. This is notably a violent android family to a degree that have sell ticket. Remain to be seen, but based on these early numbers the movie is going to need a lot of help from overseas market. Made $24 million internationally, or 770% of its total haul including a whipping. $110 million in China. Certainly can't rely on it happening, but Bands is a kind of movie that can play well outside of North America. Prey was incredibly well received, but its dreaming release was mistaken. I mention not unlike what happened with Pixel. Audiences have come to accept that this franchise is a streaming and not for theater. Tracking suggests people are not convinced proudly that this is worth the trip to theater. Then again, if word for mode is good, none of things can change. It also does not hurt that is the Predator PG-13, which could open up to a larger audience, while coming off as a trade of that Halloween frame at a box office. The cool thing about it Wilson is that original run technically ended in 1960. The shows have relight going away. Not only are they constant reboot, but you can see the Jaws influences in basically every major anthology TV series and a metric tone of the horror films that have come out since. Viewers have a good real-life Zone stylist ending, and Hollywood's second writer Love Franklin for these peaks of some of the best real life Zone. As few films, I have limited my choices to movies that only fail to only similar to the series, but the show was premises that feels close to one actual episode that aired on the show. These 5 movies are hardly the only ones that feel like desert episodes, but they are definitely 5 that are worth checking out. In the 1959 CCS episodes And When the Sky Was Open 3 as donors miraculously survive an accident in outer space and land safely back on the Earth. In the 1987 episode And Sky Was Opened, survives an accident in outer space and lands safely back on Earth only to start disappointing one by one as particularly dark premises because there is not really a lesson to be learned. The episode simply plays into the space race and a fear that maybe mankind is not supposed to be major outside of Earth's atmosphere, and maybe we are going fat by doing so, and we will be punished for it. Final Destination is already a one creation of this episode's, but it does not question that feeling of relief turn that it main characters initially feel lucky for having left a messenger right before it excluded mid-air, but as they start crying one by one they soon realizes that it probably would have been better to just die the way they were supposed to be. Better to die quickly than you have a meaningful death constantly trying to track your dawn. Some of the characters' final destinations do manage to survive. That's right. But law sequences makes it clear that it can only be solved. Note, it does not just make for an unsettling closing. Note, but is it make for some due to life commentary that is still hovering over our raws. After all, the only difference is a real life that is not clear about Wilding, usually planning to take out via something boring like slow-moving heart diseases that some are celebrated as scenarios seen here. I have never liked the Final Destination sequel that much, as we have often weird too foreign to the core respect. But the first movie is great is that this one scary not grow scary. The film's morbid ironic sense of humor is entertaining while still having the sort of heart and empathy, and also brings writing of content. It's also worth noting that most Final Destination films have a fun take. Genically Land has caught in a bite of marketing. G2. The title and its clear connection to the 2008 film cover extra eyes on the film, but it also brought in expeditions the movie could not match. If you wanted a movie about Alien, you disappointed by everything except this movie finally in few minutes. If you did not care about the cover-filled connections, then you were treated to a gripping psychological drama that had Alien thrown in at last moment. Still, there's a lot to love here, especially fought with Dead Zone. Fans will remember One More Pal Barrier, though not very popular 1962 episodes about a man who brings 3 seniors Dawn into a bunker and tell them they need to stay with him to survive, and imminent and clear like most people who Build underground bunker. This guy is not quite bright in the head, and many people's trying to quickly realizes they are better after taking hard chances outside for Michael Mary getting out of. The bunker proves more difficult. NAR to debunker's own honors inside GMA's paper than a guy in one more pile barrier and CH color file land. Gas take his time, unpacking her captor's craziness and letting Michael figure out how to deal with him. The result is S-provoking thriller, their alien show. But like all good at Zone episodes, this story is really all about human. The movie is an allegory for how difficult it can be to escape an obsessive relationship and about how there is a wider range of abusive behavior than many might think. Another fun Zone is cute quality of his movie is how low-budget art feels, or most of the run. It takes place almost entirely within one locations with very little CJ of hired Zone. I don't know what it is, but I love myself a good story. That's why one of my favorite 10 episode is Mirror Image, about a woman at a bus terminal station who finds herself being terminated by what appear to be her evil twin. By the end of the episode, her twin has fully taken over her life while she has been designated a crazy woman and dragged out to Ira's mental hospital. Something similar happened in Jordan. Tears of Us, a movie all about and I Have a Daybreak. Like Mirror Image, this is an early Image story received a lot of like Get. But I think the fact that it's so messy animus is what it is make it a more interesting film. Unlike the video Mirror Images, you get something new out of us every time you watch it. It's so surprises that people herself was so closely involved with the 2019 TW Zone revival series, but yes, it will Zone connection for MO film, honestly yes. Ambitious Jordan P has been very open about know how much he took from this, so when making us in a 2019 interview he specifically cited Mirror Images as inspiration and satisfying, beautiful, really elegant storytelling, P said, and it opened award a token of your imagination that Mike Slime's work has longer been compared to its own Zone, mainly because he loves to get a little spooky but not spooky, and through Innogent has been a blessing and a curse. It made him popular with the mainstream odes, but it also perhaps they have Ernest's unfair expectations going into these post-signed filmography to the point where people somehow thought Devilish was a bad movie. The 16 Cents is still easily the best films of the career, but it was so iconic that even people who have never seen the film already know exactly what is Bruce Lee, while realizing it's a ghost is object with him. It is a cope book evil, all the doctors swarms eye of the beholder, turning out to be guy big likely people. It is a twist that both thrilling and surprising while still feeling completely consistent with the everything that came before, and unlike the plenty of other big twist movie, knowing deep surprises doesn't actually lessen this film at all. There is a clear parallel here to any Zone. Abby sources go to BB 1960 classic The Hicker. I think I want you to mark land Zone. You know where something amazing happened in the last second and you realizes you were not watching what you thought you were watching, said in a 2021 interview. And then inevitably when you go back and look back at the movie the second time, everything should have been that feeling that it was invitable. He tried his approach plenty of time throughout his career but never pulled it for quite as well as he did to Herr Altos, and King, the author of the novella, was more inquired by Lovecraft than wrote Sling director Frank Darabont. That also be Mr. Obvious, yes, but the episodes that most come to be mind here is this time announced at last. That's the episodes where a man who always wanted more time to road books survived the apocalypses gets excited that he finally has time to read all 3 books to he want, but then his glasses break, leaving him forever blinded and alone. It's an ending that is seeming resources no other people purpose, but no hard viewer would not it suck after it happened. The people ask, and all we can do is agree that job it certainly would. Already the missed ending of a somewhat hopeful note, the actor Frank Dabin choices to And his adaptations on the first big bumper, it's not a little sadism, there's a nice little lesson that are the importance of not giving up hope even in the most sad situation. But it sure does hurt when she reached the end of it. It's like if someone took time enough at last, and that anecdotality of even further. Would it have even gotten away with a final this twisted in its original run? Probably not. But Road Sling probably would have been respected. They're about a weak swing. Science fiction movies often have something to say. Not always, of course. Sometimes the story is a light excuses to show off some cool ideas in new and exciting way. But the Blessing Channel has to offer stick with us long after we have watched our credit, because something about what it has showed us mattered. Whether it's a special effect, landmark, or the first film to talk about, is something important to us as a society. Science fiction allow pure imagination to blend with the possibility. Science Marshall's Fragments and Embar. Moon science fiction has become one of our most introspective and inclusivity channel, hiding within the realic or not science and big ideas or examinations of who we are. Those movies are all special in some important way. A subjective collection of film that will be worth of a science fiction fan either for the first time or for a rewatch to pick up something. No, let's explore. Bruce Willis can be an excellent actor, and When Monkeys is one of his best films. He is hard to visual plays like a concert against bread with his favorite madness. M's Family Travels. James calls the making of James Came the IBS was arrived with the challenges staying true due to his penchant for capturing the unimaginable scope and spectacle marked. Vita Alternaticity. Cameron took only memo task of filming almost entirely underwater, and circumstances that kept getting more difficult, although the film is a critical version perfectly reflection this labor of love and special edition. Purchase us to the very edge of a void which without ado stares back the road. Rescues the mission central to the abyss, takes place in the nuclear submarine. The USS Manta, which mysteriously sinks after brush with an underwater entity. A crew of DFC or dealer are dispatched to rescue any survivor with body brickman and alongside a rig designer and the engineer. The sentimentally inherent in the core message and a messy conscientious love story that the abyss revolves around might feel like a bite attempt, but the sincerity of the camera's intent coupled with a grounded creative sci-fi Cameron does not shy away from driving head first into uncomfortable sentiment is closes the modern gas to pure bull science fiction since the Ice Paris and where an ollie right away every grade is uniquely arranged, and Johann Schein is the alien Tarrant who is a somehow more vizier. When it was released in 2001, artificial intelligence was seen as a twisted and unchainable hybrid between the dramatically opposite sensibility after most of filmmakers. AI famously began its film in the hands of Stanley Kubrick, who worked on the films throughout the 1990s. Kubrick Lou project with. However, as he felt special effect technology had not caught up with what he wanted to depict, he picked up the again after seeing the CGI in Simon Spielberg Jurassic Park, but ultimately felt that Spielberg might be a better creative match to the sci-fi material. Kubrick handed the project to the Spielberg. The notoriously called Kubrick handed a project to the notoriously sentimental Spielberg. There was no way it was going to work. What happened was Spielberg instantly involved growing up in front of the eyes. The Apprentices-like story follows a robotic child named Javid Hell who has been programmed to feel love. His honor mother Frances O'Connor forces the robot to the imprint of her leaving her despite for his mother love brutality circumstances, however forces mother to abandon the robot, and he goes on the quest to find her again. The robot boy does not understand humanity and hope to find the blue fairy form to have wishes are granted. The quest takes millionaire eggs are curiously blind of joy and despair of sweetness, and I have hope any it stand on a cusp of seeing the future as a place where humanity will either end a place where universe's avatar will carry over a mission forward. Long after we are gone as humanity lost the gasp, but is a moment of beauty is a struggle and a prayer. Akira is a required viewing exploring big ideas like humanity's lack of humanity before. Nature and resolution of our identities. It's a film as integral to the conversation as 2021. Aspie. Life is seldom his own, and that only become more as his sanity and chatter. And need is growing physic. It's a pattern of the escalation that bombed Tokyo once before, and the government has refused to learn from it. Mistaken. Yet there is a way to survive the coming disaster, and it is in next step in our next evolution. The franchise may be hit or miss, but the original Alien remains a landmark. Blind bigger science fiction and close to home horror. Behind the awful tearing his way through the space truckers of the nose is a corrupt cooperator would recount those lives and functional investment to be used for greater gain. It is a movie that made ignore we were a star and her tenaciable trend and fear make it a clear she's earned her places as an action movie's goodness. Alienation is not subtle about using it. Alien newcomer to talk about such issue as immigration and racial tensions. It's equally blatted about how it takes it producer and his psychological cues from the classic film in the heat of the night. Still it science fiction trappings keep it fresh and effectively tangles within diamonds that rises from a drug sim intended to reopen the fragile new world Alien Arrival have created for themselves here on Earth. Have you ever explored your own DNA on Dr. Edward Jaspers, played by William Hutt? Siksa explains. Like no other, finding his holy grail in a mushroom whore used by a fictional soft American tribe. He is experimenting him on world's psychotic arrow of human evolution. But it's not one he can control. Body horror and a dreamlike imagery frame a story about body understanding the human consciousness altered is a hair blood feared and the unreasonable while it cannot remain. Itself is quickly revealed as a microorganism, a mutating threat with an unclear purpose. Space and it geometric. That horror of being unable to defend ourselves atomic level remains third. Starring a literally sequel. The Avenued Evolution offers a chilling theory of what is a train purpose and is almost road of difference. Alice Garland is a brilliant character of science fiction and seemingly blend big areas without average order. The film may not adopt author Jeff's 2014 novel with the appropriate fidelity. But what it does not do is confront the inherent horror of overexistence. Questions of identity are examined with some horrifying implication. Survival in the face of the inhalation is proven to be the unreal universe's idea, but it's dead beer. Dear God, there's a screaming beer. Danny's could adopt a takeout menu and it would be the killer match. Arrival adopted Jing's short story into a nonlinear narrative about free will and beauty and agony of our existence. Is Alien are as thoughtful and embodying as they are incompetent. Civil dissonance is a palpable greatness. Arrival is about language as our first tool. A weapon when it used properly, but a key to the universal secure secret when used well. Hug your locals at airport. Back to the Future is an importable gift. A charming flake about a high school kid and his bus. A mad scientist who invent time travel and then test it out in small parking lot. It's a movie that made people remember that EMC dialogue her Ching and affair supreme that the rules of time travel are never solid, but the film keeps the internal logic with a solid RO music blade with an aquic end. No aesthetic and we questions about what makes us a human. Blade Runner is a former cult movie that's a scene involved into a benchmark for the science fiction gender. Little remains of PKD novel do android and dream of the elective shape but emotional right for. It makes up for the lake of the sequel. Blood 2049 is equally recommended for this exploration of humanity from your point of view. This event went through our period after whiteness in the late of 1970s and early 80s, and they should go back to it. The black hole is wonderfully this philosophical exploration of the finger fringes of space and implement of human sanity. Maximus Scale is our ultimate M. Scientist man possessed by the mystery of the world. The turn 40 spiritual in the film's final act must be seen to be believed is a nightmare strike to the friends of Harris itself. The voice from Brazil correctly recognizes that its scheme to remake Hitler relies on how the children's are neutered, even more than press DNA. Replication's blackly funny efficient hunter had a chance to watch that 1985. That's Nightmare Brazil. He would think it could be John Donne and hear the future will be a black. There will be enraged revolutions trying to set the Handcroft system that had the confidence in jury mechanized. The word is held for anyone who dares to have a dream. This is what Sam the L characters of Brazil learns in the most painful possible way. Sam dreams of rescuing themselves in this game. The Ankle. Brazil is a combination of George over West political discourse as seen in the 1984 and gross beauty care as seen in the trial, but all blended the inside Jodic. Soaping the near slapstick blender out on Diving Brazil is a film to keep the viewer of glancing and upset, introducing the hope so it cannot be the sort of a future is not bright, our institution will destroy us. What a glorious film. Children of Mass is an unflinching revolutions of beauty. James novel about it demanding humanity. The reason for global infertility remains mysterious, implying we have simply become too destructive for nature to allow us to continue. Hope must be told for and it is the state parallel throwing final act is necessary but also secure. What's important is a search for our space's new phone. The cinematography along with it make this movie special. But it's so much more than that. Blending superhero motives with found footage chronicles enders of its full portion of the cycle of abuse is a power fantasy of a child have been bullied for too long. Dick seems the aliens droppings are not explored for long and standard of critical magic fair body or the special effect quickly lay ball. When any aging are confronted in science fiction, the answer is usually defense co. Takes the defense and make it the kind man pernies are old but not cool shock. To the gift out there has a terrible cause. It's a holy movie and not a deep intellectual one, but it is a nice one. A gentle gift of the imagination and an idea of alien life that sport Coron Ball and the comforter the acting outfit of forgettable classic into something still worth visiting near future exposition of the social partic MC Dose Fair. What performances we would be like to think Alex is the worst person in the world getting his you when he finally falls a full of flaw, but he's just a cog that lived out of place. His awfulness did not matter to sociality until he upset the wrong people. His story is an ugly one, although it remains alluring to behold Alex in a dystopia that's only a reality. The least we can do is learn to avoid it. Developed method of derating possible alien exposures from gloves uncover the first kind Singer UFO clothes. David makes most of his movies made his budget and died so that you can go home in 3 times as long to begin unpacking what you just watched. Crime of the Future satisfies our promises made in his earlier film that ringers with an underworld filled with the body. Horror art show and Pregnant are for our internal organ weaving through all of it. Is element for our ruined ecosystems and the power of evolutionary biology. This world is dirty dreamlike and is somehow a real of comfort. It's also a short glimpses at a large universes, and it leaves the viewer with a dozen different questions, and is to the credit all of them desire our full imagination anew. Corner classic both Sinist and A Dog Forest Theory find a prospect of the first content troubling treating the concept of life as a prisoner of dump.